Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Tasya Zahrani from Major English Literature Class A. On this occasion, I will explain about neurolinguistics and the cases related to it. Let's start it. What is neurolinguistics? Neurolinguistics studies the relation of language and communication to different aspects of brain function. For example, it tries to explore how the brain understands and produces language and communication. This involves attempting to combine theory from neurology or neurophysiology with linguistic theory. The study is not only about the function of human brain, but it also focuses on the part in others to understand difficulties in using language or language disorders that involve the activities of speaking, listening, writing, and using the sign language. Language process occur when people utter the words or express the utterance, and they understand the process. Different views on the relation between brain and language. The first one is localism, tries to find location or center in the brain for different language functions. Associationism places language function in the connection between different areas of the brain, making it possible to associate, for example, perception of different sense with words or concept. Next, dynamic localization of function, as in the functional system of localized sub-functions perform language function. Next, holistic theories consider many language functions as handled by large parts of the brain working together. The last one, evolution-based theories stress the relation between how brain and language evolve over time in different species, how they develop in children, and how adults perform language functions. Now I will explain about examples of cases related to neurolinguistic studies. The quality of education is closely related to the success of students in absorbing the lesson given by the teacher. The teacher designs learning based on applicable curriculum. Thus, curriculum are designed to serve students' academic abilities to excel. Curriculum preparation in Indonesia now does not only consider academic matter, but in the form of attitude, moral has become essential that must be developed and owned by students, such as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor aspects. Cognitive, affective, and psychomotor aspects are actually inseparable from the role of hemisphere function of the human brain, especially in language teaching. The brain is center of the nervous system in the human body, which has very vital functions. The human brain is made up of 78% water, 9% fat, and 8% protein. Most of the components of the brain are in the cerebrum, while others in the cerebellum. The cerebrum or big brain functions as the power of human thinking and decision-making processes, while the cerebellum or small brain functions to control body movement in space and regulate attitude, body position, balance, and coordination of body movement that arise constantly. The human brain consists of two hemispheres, namely the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. In contrast, the right hemisphere is important for the function of emotion, sounds, gesture, both emotional and verbal. If viewed from a neurophysiological point of view, the involvement of two hemispheres is an integrate manner in language processing, but spoken and writing language does occur. Recent development proves that the right hemisphere is responsible for language use. According to this view, the use of language in spoken communication in real situations of pragmatics is controlled by the right hemisphere. This view corrects the view that nominates the left hemisphere. The left hemisphere is assumed to produce a systematic way of thinking, work with size, and is logical rational. The left hemisphere regulates a person's way of thinking in terms of a more rational and measured mindset, quantitative and real. The left hemisphere ability is able to explain everything that is detailed, sequential, detailed, partial, logical, and provide analytical performance in process of thinking. People who are dominated by left hemisphere do not dare to go beyond and general and spiral ideas to create progressive and new ideas. The right hemisphere tend to be synonymous with relativity, equality, fantasy, emotion, music, and color. Right hemisphere thinking is lateral and structural, tends not to thinking about details. Right hemisphere memory is also long. Putra say that the ability of the right hemisphere is a rule of 90% of total brain capacity, while the left hemisphere is only 10 to 12%. Optimizing both hemispheres of the brain does not mean effective both of them halfway, but the truth is that both of them function in one moment or one job continuously. The human brain consists of four lobes that help the brain work, such as the parietal lobe, the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. Based on the result table above, it can be illustrated that student 1 and student 2 have differences in their ability to acquire English. The problem encountered in the first and second batch. As you can see, the first one is listening and speaking skills. The problem that students face in listening and speaking skills are limited vocabulary, lack of motivation to learn, lack of confidence, so their ability to master listening and speaking skill is reduced. While the second batch of students experience problems in listening and speaking skills due to limited vocabulary, but they had good learning, motivation, and high self-confidence, so that their listening and speaking skills were good. The two reading and writing skills. The problem faced by students 1 and 2 in their reading and writing skill are limited vocabulary, grammatical error, and interpreting errors. Fear from the neurolinguistic aspect, the language process is meaningful and useful communication process in the form of message or feelings. There are two language processes in the brain. First is process of productive language or encoding. The process of productive language or encoding is an activity that is an produce news and message. The second language process is receptive language process or decode. Decoding is the process of receiving news, message, and mandates. Overall, the first student from the neurolinguistic aspect, the problem occur in the decoding process and the encoding process, while the second student experienced problem in the decoding process and a few problems in the encoding process. Decoding activities in the brain process input in the form of spoken and written. These two inputs are processed in different ways in the brain. Input in the form of speech will enter the temporal lobe first, partially in the primary. Then the input is through auditory cortex. Then the input is through the learning area. In learning area, the spoken input is broken down into syllables, words, phrases, clauses, sentence, and given meaning and understood. If the input does not have need a response, then the input will be taken to the memory area. If the input requires a verbal response, then the input is taken to the Broca area. Then the Broca areas, the input is carried to the motor cortex area that commands the movement of the lines. In conclusion, the process of speaking in the brain is a process that is displayed by a person in terms of the ability and behavior of thinking, composing, speaking, and expressing everything by voice. Next conclusion. Neurologically, when viewed from the word function of the brain, receptive language process or decode and productive language process or encode that occur in the brain are less than optimal, as well as the work function of the left and right hemispheres that are not in line, resulting in the process of language acquisition being constrained. The parietal lobe function to capture sensory and carry out language function, as well as the temporal lobe which function to determine concrete attitudes and action, such as assessing, providing planning, setting agenda, and the creativity that needs to be stimulated so that the process of acquiring a foreign language can run well and flow. I think that's all of my presentation. More or less, I apologize. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.